All right, welcome everyone. This is the last lesson of this series. We've been talking about the 3 basic facets of good vocal production, talked about mental awareness, proper posture, and now, David, proper breathing. Okay, when we know with singing already, breath is everything.
Oh, everything. Practically all of the vocal coaches teach proper breathing.
Yeah,
they do. And the breath is taken silently, making sure that you have your posture. We'll review posture very quickly. Mental awareness, we're going to go through them because that's what we do. Mental awareness. How am I going to sing? Beautifully and freely. I'm not going to think about anything but singing. I always tell my students, if you start thinking about lunch, we're not able to sing. So, number 2 is your posture. You're up straight, standing or sitting. Your rib cage is comfortably lifted and opened. We are neither tense nor relaxed, but poised, like the energy of a medium fist surging through our body, or a ballet dancer pirouetting across the stage. Now, with that in mind, then it's time to breathe. Many people believe that breathing is done, the breath should be taken through the nose. Well, let's discuss that. If you have to take a quick breath, you've got a problem. Because how big are the orifices of your of your nose? The nasal cavity is big enough, the nasopharynx, but those orifices are tiny. So if you have to take a quick breath, here's what you're going to get. Everything's fine, mental awareness, proper posture. Here goes my breath. Did you hear it?
I mean, we do this naturally, like if we run for a little bit or what, nobody's just breathing through their nose. You open your mouth and you breathe.
Well, of course. In fact, I did track professionally, and even before I learned voice, I just remembered this. My teacher, Mr. Morris, he said, David, breathe in your mouth and breathe with your mouth wide open. But he was thinking like that. Well, if you do that wide thing, just as it, in the future, it jams your vocal apparatus tighter and actually shuts the bore off a bit to your throat. Okay, so now we breathe silently through the mouth. Inward, downward. For you, it should be slowly, feeling the front of the intercostals expanding, coming out, feeling the sides going out, feeling the back going out. And if you get a proper breath completely, standing or sitting, especially sitting, you'll feel yourself rise off your chair a little bit because you're doing a full inhalation breath. So the breathing is done silently. Does it require a wide mouth? No. Does it require a wider mouth than when you sing? Not necessarily. It might if you have to do quick singing and a quick breath. You might have to go, I opened a little wider, but did I open like Robert Glay sings or like Mick Jagger sings? No. So, silently through the mouth. Inward, downward. If you're doing it properly, the rib cage might do this at the end. Tweak a little. Because the muscles are at the top, they're right at the bottom of the top of the intercostal muscles are at the bottom of the floating ribs. So they might a tiny bit, but really this is what you should see when you breathe properly. Do you see any raising of my shoulders?
No.
Because the shoulders don't raise. Now a woman has a uterus, and when they breathe, they will have a little bit of shoulder raise. If they've had a hysterectomy, then that really won't occur. There will be literally no shoulder raising anymore, because they then have the same organs as a male. So we breathe. And what you want to do as you develop your breathing is you go with a full breath and then try to take a little more to where the muscles actually ache a bit, because you're making them go beyond your standard stretch. Now I'm just living and breathing, but if I'm going to sing a long phrase, oh my, you better teach those muscles to really stretch, because depending on the clarity of your voice, that's going to expend the breath when you sing. That's simply it. Mouth versus nose. Don't breathe through your nose, breathe through your mouth.
Do you never breathe through your nose? Or maybe just when you're breathing, like if there's a break?
I would say you could breathe through your nose anytime you want, as long as it doesn't make a sound.
Okay.
If you could breathe through your nose instead of your mouth, in a song, if you had a big pause, like a lot of rest, you could...
A break of sorts, yes.
Now, one of the problems with breathing through your nose quickly is that it kind of shocks the nasal cavity and they close a little bit. The orifices, not the orifice, but the channel closes a bit. Now, if you want to know if you're breathing through your nose, what usually happens is the muscles of the orifice open a little bit. If you're not sure, am I breathing through my nose? You can feel a coolness when you're breathing through your nose.
Sure.
When you're breathing through your mouth, there's nothing. Okay. Nothing in the nose, nothing at all. That won't have any manifestation until you actually sing properly. Yeah.
Okay. David, let's talk about vibrato. Did I say it right? Vibrato, right? Because it's Italian. Vibrato.
That's right.
And then tremolo.
Tremolo is primarily what we hear today when most singers sing. And the reason we hear it is because they're using so much tension in the throat to produce the sound that instead of the vibrato being an undulation of volume, if you will, which has really pretty much a stationary pitch, there's just a kind of a dance between the muscles of the intercostals and the internal throat muscles in their natural tensile strength as they produce a sound. Hey. Am I going to do that with my jaw or with my throat or with my stomach, with my sides of my back? No. It's just vibrato. Vibrato is a natural manifestation of a well-produced sound.
So it should happen naturally.
It does. But if when you vibrato, it does this, and I'm not trying to deviate my pitch, but you can hear that it's dipping and it's slower. That's where I'm compressing so much that it no longer is a undulation of volume. It's actually manifesting itself in a pitch deviation. And some of the singers who have done this for years, you can hear very well. Robert Goulet singing If Ever I Would Leave You. The other one is Liza Minnelli when she sings anything, pretty much. Older Judy Garland, and quite honestly, any hard rock singer that sings really strongly and tight. You'll hear when they hold a note, if they decide to let their version of vibrato through, you'll hear it going, ah, like that, you know?
And that's forced.
That's forced. Tremolo is not part of correct singing. It is part of incorrect singing using compression to different degrees.
And that's what most singers are doing nowadays.
Yes, most singers do that consistently.
Until you and I had this conversation, isn't this sad? Because I've taken vocal lessons in the past. I didn't realize that it wasn't something you were supposed to force. I didn't know it could happen naturally. So does it happen for everybody? Vibrato, does that happen naturally for everybody?
Everyone has a vibrato. But not everyone is gifted with the godly intelligence to sing correctly, Sonny.
But if you learn to sing correctly...
If you can learn to sing correctly, the vibrato will manifest itself.
It will come.
And because we sing genres, different genres, in today's singing, you have to learn when to stop it.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is not pure Belle Canto.
In pure Belle Canto, you just let it go.
It just goes where it goes. If you sing a really short pitch, it won't occur because the pitch is too short for the speed of the undulation to manifest. It's just that simple.
So this is another way you can tell if you're singing pure Belle Canto.
Yes,
right?
As you hold a note.
Vibrato.
If you sang, there's a popular song that Celine Dion did many years ago, which is from the theme from the Titanic, which is...
My Heart Will Go On.
My Heart Will Go On. And when she goes... Every night in my dreams. She doesn't go, Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That's forced singing. And I'm not doing that totally naturally.
Yeah.
I'm making a little bit of a joke about tremolo and what it does, but I'm trying not to. It's just that it does do that. When you squeeze that hard in your bands, if you're young, you might get away with it for a little while. It'll have a season. Yeah. Just like a guy who gets hired who throws a fastball wrong, but they know that he can win some games. So a bad manager or a bad coach will say, let him throw the ball. In a couple of years, we'll have won the pennant, roll him over, get another person.
Sure.
And that's what you got to be careful of, singers, because there's a lot of coaches out there. They hear a good voice and they go, let's train it. Use it, burn it out, roll them over, and get a new voice.
So sometimes people do Belle Canto and then they slide out of it and then they'll come back into it. So it's not necessarily an all or nothing thing.
Absolutely. By the time I was 21 years old and studied voice almost 4 years, I had gotten away from my voice teacher and I was not studying with him, or not like I should. And I came in and I was compressing my sound because there was another voice teacher in the same school that was telling me you need that sound. And I actually went after it. And when I came in, he said, Mr. Moyer, you've developed a tremolo. We have to get you back to where you were. And he did. And I went back, but I had actually lost. And it wasn't to do with breathing, which we're talking primarily about. The breathing system will support that sound no matter what. But when it manifests, it's how you manifest in your throat that gives you tremolo or vibrato.
And David, for our homework, we are going to have an exercise. I want you to kind of explain it to people how you can use a book to learn how you're breathing properly.
Well, if you can't, and many of you can't, I couldn't either. When I breathed, I couldn't get my air to go down here. So Mr. Moore had me lay on my back, and then he put a book on my stomach, basically, not touching the ribs, but between the stomach and my lower pelvis. Then he said, breathe, and when you take your breath, the book should raise because of your breath. If it won't raise, you could get someone to push on your chest so hard, it might take that because your body's going to resist it. It's got a habit. It doesn't want to let the air go there. And when you're doing it right, when you lay on the floor, just like when you sit, if you do a full breath and then a little more where it hurts, you'll feel yourself rise up off the floor a little bit, because that system, the diaphragm is stretching, pushing the organs out of the way to get as much air as possible. And that's why you'll get that lift from the butt, extension of the sides and the back, and your tummy will lift the book in the air.
Okay. Well, guys, you actually made it through all of the lessons for this video. We have one more video that we want to show you, but it's basically going to wrap everything up because we've given you a ton of information. So we just want to kind of do some highlights, and that will be in the next video.
See you then.